We're going to get started. We're so glad that so many of you made time this evening or morning, if you're Alyson, to join us here today. I'm Romy Newman. I'm the co-founder of Fairygodboss. I wanted to welcome you all and welcome Alyson. We're really pleased and proud to have her here. Before we, tonight, Alyson's going to be telling us all, and actually I guess this is a great time for me to introduce Alyson. In case you don't know, Alyson is an amazing fount of career advice. She's really passionate about helping women advance their careers. She partners with her clients as a career coach to identify their strengths and help them find a more fulfilling career. She is a certified professional coach, and she is or went to school in Boston. Are you from Boston, Alyson?
From the Boston area, yeah. I grew up in Massachusetts.
Wonderful. But now you live in?
New Zealand. Reporting from the future. I was just saying, I know it's 1 o'clock on Thursday. So Thursday's great, everyone. You're going to love it.
Awesome. Good to know. So before I hand it over to Alyson, I did want to take a minute just to share some context and also tell you a little bit about Fairygodboss in case you are not aware of what a Fairygodboss is or what we do. We believe that a Fairygodboss is anyone who helps another woman. Anyone who helps another woman advance her career. We are a website that's designed to create much more transparency around women's workplace experiences so that we can all empower each other with information and lift each other up. We were founded because way back in 2013, my co-founder was fired unexpectedly from her job at the Wall Street Journal when she was 2 months pregnant. And so as a pregnant female job seeker, she realized that there was very specific information she was seeking that she wasn't able to find. And so she wanted to understand what companies treated women well, what companies really promoted women. She said, I want to know what women who work at these companies say. And so instead of finding another job, she built a phenomenal product that crowdsources career tips for women. And she approached me about joining her as a co-founder. And we've been really excited about the momentum at Fairygodboss ever since. We've done a lot of research to take us beyond Georgine's experience and found that men and women really do seek jobs differently. I'm not sure if any of you see this and say, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. But generally speaking, men leave jobs for a different reason than women. Men leave jobs because they want more money. Women leave jobs because something about their current job is not working for them. Either they don't like their manager, their workplace, their culture, or something about their personal life is changing, so it causes them to make a job search. In addition, we find, on the next slide, that women really, men and women mostly use the same tools to job seek, but what's really interesting is that women are not nearly as comfortable job seeking on LinkedIn and on social media. And I think the reason for that is because to be an effective job seeker in the social realm, you have to kind of get really comfortable with the notion of relentless self-promotion. And you have to be really willing to boast and brag about yourself and post often. And women, with a large generalization, women are not that comfortable doing that. Which is what Alyson is going to talk to us about today. But I do think that there's an interesting statistic at the bottom of this slide is that our data shows that women are half as likely to be contacted by a recruiter as men are. And I think that's an outcome of our inability to be as assertive on social media as men are. When we ask for women, what makes a big different, what are they looking for in a company? They're looking for a good situation, a good manager, a good culture. Compensation is really important to them as it is to men. But for women, they really want to understand what kind of situation am I getting into? And that's what Fairygodboss aims to help do is help you all know a lot more about the situation you're getting into. So researching jobs is very important. But now I'm going to hand it over to Alyson, who's going to tell you a lot more about that relentless self-promotion notion and help you understand how within your network there's opportunity to find new jobs and how to take advantage of them. So Alyson, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Romy. So we're talking today about your relationships and how your relationships can help you when you are going about your job search or advancing your career. So as Romy mentioned, really for women, it's about what is the kind of situation you're going into. And that's really hard to tell if you're just looking at a job board. And that's why the resources like your relationships and like Fairygodboss can be really important. I always talk about how when you are on a job search or things aren't perfect at work, everything looks bright and shiny and amazing. So websites like Fairygodboss and Talking with Your Friends are able to really help you get through the bright and shinies and see what's real, what might be a good situation for you to get in. And working with your friends and being amongst your friends and people that you have a relationship with can make a more fulfilling job environment. So we're going to talk about a few ways that you can really build and maintain the right relationships so you're always top of mind. And I think that's the biggest thing is Romy mentioned the relentless self-promotion. Really what that's about is making sure that people think of you. And if you're out there and you're around, then you're going to be the person that people think of when an opportunity comes up. So the thing I hear most when people talk about networking is that their network just isn't big. I'm sorry, I just don't have anybody that can help. And that's really, really common for that to be a default answer. And you know, funny enough, my brother reached out to me not long ago and asked me if I knew somebody at a certain college because he was looking for football tickets. Big UT fan, needed tickets to a game. So he was coming to town and said, oh, do you know anybody at this school? And my first reaction, even being me, a career coach who knows and thinks about networking all the time, nope, don't know anybody. 2 seconds later, I realized that my neighbor worked at that school and I had just placed a candidate at that school. So really, when you're thinking about your network, I really want you to think about who's in it beyond just those that you think of kind of off the top of your head. And part of knowing who's in your network is knowing what do they do. I have a really good friend who was sharing with me once. She has her own business and she's also a really avid soccer coach on the weekends. And she needed somebody to help with her website and her business. And she looked everywhere, couldn't find anybody. And then she found out that one of her fellow soccer coaches was a web designer and would have been able to help her. And she was so frustrated because it's such a taboo to talk about what you're doing at work. So she was really frustrated and saying, how do we start those conversations? And that's part of your job in knowing who's in your network, asking people what they do, because it's not just your colleagues. It's the people that you're interacting with day to day all the time. So when you think of who's in your network, how do you even know? You need to start to ask them what they do and encourage others to share information. Just because you're outside of work doesn't mean you can't share a little bit of what you do at work. And then I want you to think about when you need support, what are you asking for? Particularly in job search, it's really easy for people to say, oh, I'm looking for a job, I'm looking for anything, or can you help me with my job search? But I want you to really tune into, if you need support, what are you asking for? And I put up here 3 things that you might be asking for. You might be asking for information. So if you find out that somebody in your network or one of your friends has a job that you'd be really interested in or works for a company that you'd really like to work for, then you're going to be talking to them about what is it like to work at that company? Is it as bright and shiny as I think it is? And making sure that they give you some information for you to make a decision. You might also be looking for opportunities. So once you decide that you do want to work at that company, you might ask that person to keep their eye out if there's an opening in your field of expertise. Or the final one, which can be really, really important in helping you expand your network, is introductions. So when people are doing an informational interview or talking to people that might be able to help them in their job search, I always encourage them to not only ask about an opportunity, but if you hear of an opportunity or know somebody I should speak with, please let me know. So for me, I'm a one-man band. I partner with great websites like Fairygodboss, but I don't have any employees and I'm not looking to start a big company with lots of employees. So if people are talking to me about their job search, I won't have an opportunity for them, right? I'm not hiring. But I'm always going to have an introduction. So you never know who could introduce you to the next person that'll be influential in your job search. Let's go ahead to the next slide, continuing to talk about your existing network. And I'm going to go ahead and pop into the chat an article that I wrote for Fairygodboss on this topic of your 3 networking lists. So again, because it's so easy to think that your network is really small and might not be able to help, I want you to put your network into 3 lists. This will help you get really, really organized in your job search, and it will also help you with that relentless self-promotion. Who are the people you need to be talking to? How could they help? What is the way that you need to reach out? So I'm going to pop that article in here. You can save it for later or search it. So those 3 categories, or those 3 networking lists, are your easy asks, your catch-ups, and your 3rd-degree connections. So easy asks are just that. They are people that you're already around, the people that you talk to every day, whether it be somebody who's in a class at your gym, at kids pickup, at your art class, or at work. So making sure that those people know what you do, and if you're looking for a job and you have a specific way that they might be able to help you, asking for that support. So with your networking list, I want you to start with making a list of all the people that in a week you interact with. Who are those people? Because they're close to you and they're probably willing to help. They already know and love you. The next group is the catch-ups. And I kind of think of this group as the people that you see their anniversary on LinkedIn or their birthday on Facebook or updates on Facebook, and you always think nice thoughts. They make you smile, but you probably haven't caught up with them in quite some time. So my guess is you're thinking of someone now who falls into that category. But thinking of those people, when you are thinking of them, my method is to just reach out and say, I'm thinking of you. How are things going? We'll talk about that a little later. So your catch-ups are the next person that you'll list in your group. So those people that are not 3rd-degree connections, but you haven't chatted with them in too long. And there's a lot of research that suggests that those catch-ups are the most valuable people in your job search or career advancement. The reason for that is because oftentimes you and your easy asks are running in the same circles. So you know the same people, but the catch-ups might be somebody who's left your company a year and a half ago. So now they have a whole new network. And then finally, 3rd-degree connections. When you make your list of 3rd-degree connections, you don't have to jump to reaching out to that 3rd-degree list. Those can be the scariest people to reach out to. And it's really, really rare, honestly, that I have people that need to get to that 3rd degree. Usually people are seeing results in building relationships, getting opportunities, and landing a job with the easy asks and catch-ups. But the good thing about the 3rd-degree connections is if your easy asks or your catch-ups say, hey, who would you like me to introduce you to? Or I know people at this company, how can I help you? That's a really important question to know the answer to. How can I help you? So when people ask you that kind of question, that's when you'll come out with your 3rd-degree connections. Now, if you're comfortable and ready to rock and roll, reach out to the 3rd degrees right away. But I still want you to be talking with your easy asks and your catch-ups at the same time. Next, we'll talk about your network being bigger than you think. So remember, I mentioned the people in your gym class, the people at kids pick up at school. Like, these are all people in your network. So in that easy ask and catch-up list, I want you to think to yourself, what am I and who do I know? So, for example, I used to teach a spin class at the Y, completely separate from my professional life, but something I really, really enjoyed. So I knew a whole different set of people than in my professional world based on the fact that I was a spin teacher at the Y. I also volunteer with Special Olympics, another set of people that I know through that. So those are people that you often don't think of as being in your network, but they absolutely are. So what are you? What are your roles beyond your work? Are you a pianist? Are you a soccer player? Are you a mom? make note of those people and the people that you know as a result of that role that you play. Okay, let's go ahead to the next slide. Awesome. So now we're going to talk about building relationships. So there might be times when you're, needing to expand. So you're going beyond the people that you already know. And one of the great ways to do that is to start to attend events. Let's see, we have this raise your hand function on the side. So I'm gonna take a little poll. So raise your hand and tell me, do you attend more than one networking event per month? Raise your hand if you attend one or more networking events per month. Awesome. Wow, everybody's really good. I'm glad to see so many hands here. So I just gave a couple ideas of places that you can find networking events. You might start with Meetup. I was just on the phone with a client this morning, and I was talking to them about where do you find networking events, because she was going to a lot of mixers but didn't quite feel comfortable there, and she was worried that some of the relationships and people there were not motivated by professional reasons, we'll say. So we started to look at Meetup, and Meetup is a great way just to get your wheels turning about what groups are out there that you can join. And remember, it doesn't need to be a professional group. You could meet your next boss or employee or partner at a brunch, a Sunday brunch club or a hiking group. So start to think about the things that you really enjoy doing and do more of those to meet like-minded people. I made a decision in my business pretty early on that I was only going to events. I was only going to go to events that I knew I would learn something. So I started finding events that were about topics that I was interested in or were events that I would already have wanted to go to. And I treated those as my networking events. It doesn't need to be that you always go to a mixer if a mixer is not your bag. What really is important in looking at these long-term relationships and building relationships is that you're going to events that feel good to you. You will be your most authentic self if you are at an event that feels good. So meetups are a great place to start. You could also look at industry associations. So most industry associations have regular meetings, which can be really nice to attend. And they're also good if you're not a mixer kind of person. So if you would rather go to an event where there's a little bit of mix and mingling, then there's some either structured networking or structured theme for the night where there's maybe a speaker or a filming of something, a screening of something, you can go to those. And that way you have a little bit of time in the beginning. Then there's an event, you'll learn something. And then after, you'll have that springboard of what you just saw to go ahead and talk to people about that. So you already are starting on that professional footing. Industry associations will oftentimes have a membership, but don't worry if you don't want to make the investment of a membership fee. Any organization that is worth joining will let you go once or twice without being a member. I'd be very, very suspicious of any organizations that say you must pay us before you can go to a meeting, because you don't know if you like them and they don't know if they like you. So start by, usually industry associations will charge members one price and charge non-members just a little bit more. So pay that little bit more the first few times and make sure those are people that you think would be valuable to meet with regularly and that you'd get something out of both professionally and personally. And then finally, women's networking groups. So this is a great place for a lot of people to start, is to start to look at what are the groups that cater specifically to women. I mean, here we are on Fairygodboss. So it's a website that was made for women who are looking at what their next career move would be and want to get that information on what companies are like. So if you're starting here, chances are that's a place that is comfortable for you. So there are lean-in chapters all over the country. One of my absolute favorite women's networking groups, which is in many major cities, is called 6 Degrees Society. And I'll pop that in, 6 Degrees Society. They are an amazing group of women, and they do curated networking. So what that means is you send in a bio before, and the organizer will match you with someone who you think could be, who they think you'd be a good fit with, whether they're hiring and you're looking, or you share an industry or a specialized skill or interest. They'll make sure that they put you together with the right people. So if you're a little more introverted, you're a little nervous about having to put yourself out there, there's definitely an event for you, and it's all about finding which one is the right fit, because it's out there, and that's when you'll feel most comfortable and most authentic. So as you are building those relationships and going to events, think about what are the questions you could ask people. A lot of times people are very, very self-conscious talking about themselves, and that's okay if you need to, take a minute and get to know people before you start talking about yourself. Obviously, you'll have to at some point, but to get the conversation going, people are usually quite happy to talk about themselves. So you can consider asking them, what do they do? What do they need? Who are their customers? What's next for them? Like, what are they thinking of as their next career move? Are they staying in their industry? People will be happy to share with you what's new with them. And then it might be the case that you're able to offer a resource, which is a way that you can kind of promote what you're doing. You might be able to offer a resource or an introduction to help them along. And if you're connecting other people, you'll end up being a resource for life and somebody that people think very highly of. I'll pause for just a minute and make sure everybody's okay here. Do you have any questions up until this point, or anything that you'd like to share? Okay, good. We'll go ahead to the next slide then. Okay, so again, building relationships and building solid relationships will help long term. So if you're able to introduce two people who become great partners or hire one another, now you're seen in a great light to both of them. And that's one of the ways that you can stay top of mind and make sure people are thinking of you. If you're thinking of others and making sure that you're giving people what they need. It's been funny. So I've lived in New Zealand now for just under a year. And I'm still connecting people that are in LA or all over the States or all over the world. And they're saying, I can't believe Alyson's doing this all the way from New Zealand. But it's because I've really tuned into what people need, and I'm really quick to make a recommendation. And that helps them. And now I've got two people on the phone who are voluntarily saying nice things about me because I've brought them together. So it takes the focus off of me. It may seem like I would be the first person to toot my own horn and talk about myself, but I get it. It's hard to do. So figure out how you can do it in a way that feels really natural. And for me, it's connecting others. So I'm going to do another little poll. Raise your hand if you've ever heard the term that networking is farming, not hunting. I'm not seeing too many. Okay, great. So a new term for a lot of people. Networking being farming, not hunting, is all about the time it takes to build relationships and that trust. So hunting, boom, you find your target, one and done, it's over. And that's how everyone would love for networking to be. Like, we all have this, well, many of us have this story in our heads that, okay, need a new job, time to network. I'll go to a mixer, I'll give somebody a business card, they give me a job. But it's just not that simple. So building relationships is really all about planting a lot of seeds and then nurturing them. So it's not just about giving everyone your business card or telling everybody that you're looking for a job. It's giving them the information about what you enjoy doing, what problem you solve, what kind of opportunity you're looking for, and then following up in a way that feels authentic and doesn't always have an ask. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but really I want you to think about networking as building relationships, again, so people are thinking of you. And I always share this story when I talk about networking being farming versus hunting. When I was first on my own in business, I had a recruiter reach out to me. She wanted to meet and learn about my business. And recruiters are awesome, awesome referral partners for me because they have the relationships with companies to get people jobs. And I'm getting people well equipped to get in front of companies. So if somebody goes to a recruiter and says, I just don't know what I want to do, they say, okay, talk to Alyson. Once you know and Alyson has you in a nice, neat package, then I'll take you back and we can get you in front of the right companies. So they're awesome, awesome referral partners, complementary businesses for me. So this woman reached out. We had a great conversation. I really, really liked her. And I actually referred her and her recruiting business to a big investment firm where I used to work. So pretty big win that she was able to connect with somebody there and get a foot in the door. And I wrote a glowing review of her and how much I enjoyed her and that she would be a great person for them to talk with. So that was our first meeting. And then the second meeting, she didn't show up. She just didn't show up. There was like kind of loose reasons why after following up, maybe some confusion. At the end of the day, it became really, really clear that she wasn't worthy of that recommendation. And I had put my reputation on the line with a company that I had a lot of respect for her. So I was more naive than most people where I did that the first time. But most people will not do that the first time. Most people are skeptical enough that they're not going to make that recommendation until they've already gotten to know you, talked with you a few times, I have a friend that jokes, sees that you show up on time and make eye contact and smile before they're going to put their name on the line for you. So it's really, really important that you remember that. And there's no networking event that you should leave saying, oh, that wasn't fruitful, I'll never go back. It won't be fruitful. You're not going to see that fruit that night. It's really, really rare. So thinking of networking as a long-term commitment to your career success long-term, not just, I need a job, I'll go to a networking event, I'll get a job. Okay, I'll go ahead and move on from that one. Now we'll talk about effective outreach, because I have a lot of people who are asking me about how to reach out. Is it okay to reach out? What does that look like? So when you're thinking about reaching out to your third degree connections, think about how you can get personal, how you can make it easy for them to respond to you. So we've all received a generic LinkedIn request for one, or a generic sales pitch that was clearly sent to 1 million people. And as soon as you see that, your desire to respond usually goes down because you don't think that people are really actually talking to you because they haven't taken the time. They've just sent it to a bunch of people. And I actually recently saw an article about somebody who did this as a job search tactic. Now she was a marketing person, and so she made a fun MailChimp correspondence all about what a great candidate she would be, and it really showed her marketing skills. I'll tell you though, if you're not targeting people for the fact that you can send great mass emails, that is not the way to go. I reach out to people all the time, cold. That's how I got in touch with Fairygodboss, as a matter of fact. I saw what they were doing. I was really excited to see like the valuable content they had, all the information they were sharing, and I was totally inspired by their story. So I reached out cold and I said, hi, I'm Alyson. I really love the work you're doing. I'm sure that I mentioned some specific articles, and I said, I'd love to talk about how I can help, how I can support the work that you're doing. And as you can see, it worked out. They got back to me. They were really grateful for my outreach. And now I write regularly. For about the last year or so, I write 2 articles a month for Fairygodboss. And it's been such an amazing partnership. So if I had sent the same email to 15 websites, it wouldn't have been as effective. So I did my research. I got clear. I was checking LinkedIn profiles. That's also helpful because I might have done that research and thought, maybe they're not the right site for me. Maybe we have a little bit of a different take on job search. And if that was the case, it's so much better to do that now than, okay, well, now I've made a commitment and sent this generic email, and if they get back to me, it's going to be awkward to say, maybe this isn't the right fit. So getting personal, researching the organization, and being clear about what you can offer are really, really important when you're making an outreach to somebody that you don't already know. The other thing is make helping easy. Whenever you send, and there's some controversy on this, my stance is suggest a time that you can meet if you're asking someone for a meeting. So usually I think it's really effective to say something like, you know, I'm free on Tuesday afternoon if that could be convenient for you. If not, please feel free to let me know another time. And I'll tell you, the reason I do that is because I receive so many emails from people that are saying things like, Alyson, we can chat at your convenience. And being accommodating as I am, I'm always thinking, okay, this is a convenient time for me, but what time would that be for them? I wonder if it would work for them. And then now I've made up their availability, and I'm looking at my calendar and I'm looking at time zones, and that ends up being such an investment of time for me that I love it when people say, are you available at noon on Thursday? Then I can say, yes, I'm available at noon on Thursday, or I'm not, but I'm available at noon on Friday. It really takes the guesswork out for people. Now, some people think, oh, you should leave it up to the other person. You'll get your gut reaction of what you think feels right. And that's kind of the name of the game with all of this. I have some best practices. I have some things that work for me and I've seen work for others. But what's important is that you're being authentic. So I think, you know, suggesting times and giving options can be really, really helpful. And also letting people know what you want. If we go back to my Fairygodboss example, I said, you know, I wonder how we could partner. I wonder how I could contribute to the website. I wonder how we could work together. But a lot of times people will reach out and just say, hey, I would like to talk. I'm thinking of changing careers. I wondered if you'd have a chance to talk, right? So it's like, thinking about what do you really want from that person? Do you want to learn more about their career path? Do you want to learn if there's openings at the company? Are you interested in a specific opening at the company? So making sure that they know what they're walking into so they can give you their time in an appropriate way, or they might not be the right person to talk to. So if you reach out to somebody and you say, hey, I'm really interested in this, can you take the time to talk with me? They might say, thanks for your email, I'm not the right person, talk to Joe. And then that could make things a lot easier for you and save you time. So being clear, concise, and making it really, really easy for people to help you is key. The next slide. Okay, so we already talked about making it easy for people to respond. But what we're going to talk about now is responding to introductions. So you remember the story I shared about me putting that person in front of the investment firm when I wasn't quite sure if she was trustworthy and I made an assumption. What the name of the game is with that story is when I make an introduction, when you make an introduction, when anyone makes an introduction, now their reputation is on the line with that person that they're introducing. So if someone is introducing you, it is so very important that you handle that situation well. So if somebody's making an introduction for you, that means that they're putting their faith and trust and reputation behind you. And so it's not just you that you're representing. And it's so very important that you are respectful of that. Romy?
Alyson, I just have to say, yes, this is such a big one for me, because it is so challenging to put yourself out there. And I really want to help people, but I feel like when I do, I get burnt because they don't follow up on my introduction, and it makes me look bad. So it's really all about being considerate to the people that you're asking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if you could find out that somebody didn't respond promptly or didn't manage to reach out after, it's like, oh my God.
It's awful. And that's why I always recommend that you either CC or BCC the person who made the introduction, because they like put them at ease. Let us know if, let us know you've closed the loop.
Absolutely. And that's where I'm going with this next point is thank all parties. So I get a lot of introductions, and my method of responding is, like you said, it's great to move somebody to BCC so they're not in the whole chain, but get that you have reached out initially. My practice is I'll respond directly to the person who introduced me and say, thank you very much. I'll respond to Romy directly. And then I reach out to Romy and I say, Romy, thank you so much. I'm so glad that Anna introduced us. I'd love to talk with you about XYZ. But then the other important thing that I would do is I would circle back with the person that made that introduction. So here's a good example. I have a good friend who introduced me to somebody last week. Now I'm going to talk with that person tomorrow. Once I talk to that person tomorrow, I'm going to circle back with the person that introduced us. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is it's a touch point for me. So it gives me an excuse to send that person an email and say that I'm a person that follows up and I'm a person that's grateful for the introduction. Following up and being grateful are really good ways to get another introduction. Not following up, not being grateful, disappearing, those are guaranteed ways that people will not make that second introduction. So absolutely. And following up within 1 business day, 2 business days tops, following up thoughtfully, and again, making it easy for the person. So we're not saying like, oh, I'm glad that Romy introduced us. When can you meet?
And again, I would say 1 to business days, because as an applicant, to me, your time and response shows your enthusiasm, or even as a networker, it shows your enthusiasm for the introduction. You don't have to meet with them within 1 day, but if you acknowledge it, you're auditioning, you're showing how responsive you would be as an employee.
100%. I mean, you're on the stage. You're on the stage during this whole interaction, as in establishing your brand and your reputation. So these introductions are just exceptionally important. I can't stress it enough. The other thing is speak their language. So what's the best method of outreach? And I'm laughing because I called someone the other day and got their voicemail, and their voicemail said, I'm never going to check my voicemail. Please send me a text. And this is somebody who's in a position to do that. I would not recommend it to any job seekers out there. And I would certainly never do it myself. But it taught me really quickly that if I wanted to get in touch with this person, text was the best way. So it's good to mirror the way you're introduced. So if you're introduced via text, respond via text or email or phone call. If that person says, hey, give me a ring, do it. When I moved to New Zealand, as we talked about, I didn't know anybody. I did not know anybody. I was starting everything from scratch. And I reached out to people cold all the time. And I had somebody who I reached out to her cold and I said, hi, I learned about you from this place and I'm new in town and I'd really like to learn more about kind of what you're up to. Your business sounds really interesting. Could we get coffee? And she wrote back and said, oh, thanks for reaching out. Like, what times might be convenient for you? And I picked up the phone. And I said, oh, sometimes it's quicker to coordinate calendars in 2 minutes than it is for 5 emails. And she was like, oh my gosh, nobody picks up the phone. That's so nice of you. And she said, and you're right, we'll be able to get this done really quickly. So, try different things. You don't have to always stick with it, but tune into what the person's responding to and what will work well for them. Also, what do they value? So if you're reaching out to people who are new to you, do your best in that research to find out what matters to them. So are they the business development person in the company? And maybe you start to talk about sales or connections. Whatever you're reaching out to someone, making sure, and this goes hugely for any part of job search or interviews, what you're really trying to do is make people see very few barriers between you and them. So you want to be talking with someone, and of course, authentically and like you, but you want to be talking to people like, oh, we're already friends. We're already on the same team, right? When I reach out to Fairygodboss, we're both helping women advance their careers and make the right choices for their next job and be really, really equipped to handle their careers and move forward. Like, we're already on the same track. Like, how do we combine forces? So starting to really tune into what that might look like for the person. I'm also going to share, as we move on to the next slide. No, it's okay, we can move on. Another article I wrote, which it's in the, oh, excuse me, you know what? I'm sending this by accident. I sent it to the panelists and not to everyone. So let me just update that. And I'll do that for the other one. My apologies. So the article that I just shared is To Whom It May Concern, and it's about catching a hiring manager's attention. And I have a whole section of that just on making introductions. So next, we've talked about how we're reaching out. We've talked about how we're forming new relationships and getting in front of new people. So now we'll talk about that maintenance. So check in regularly without an ask. So especially when we're in job search, the inclination is to meet with someone and ask them for a job, and then circle back in 2 weeks and say, do you have a job now? Hi, I'm still here. Hi, is there a job? What about now? What about now? Do you have a job now? And that's just, it's not effective. And two, if somebody doesn't have a job for you, then the conversation stalls. Whereas if you're following up, again, circling back after they've made an introduction, if you're following up because you met somebody that you and that person have in common, that can be a great way to reach out. For me to reach out to Romy and say, oh, hey, Romy, I met Sarah the other day. I understand you used to work with her. What a small world. Hope you're doing well, Alyson. So it doesn't have to be an ask. It's just that touch point. Again, so another form of self-promotion, making sure that you're getting in front of people and people are realizing that you're around. I have a client right now who's in the film industry. When every award was announced, so the Emmys were happening, Oscars, he's in effects, so Producers Guild, Effects Awards, all these things. When all those nominees were announced, he emailed everybody he knew that was nominated. So easy. And he emailed them because he was thinking nice thoughts about them. He went, oh man, this person got nominated for an award and that's awesome and I'm so excited for them. And he dropped that line and said, congratulations on your nomination, well deserved, hope you're doing well, sign his name. So it's just that easy that when you think that nice thought about someone, when you see that they got a new job on LinkedIn, not sending the generic LinkedIn message, but saying, oh, hey, I saw you just got a job at that company. That's really awesome. Wishing you all the best. It's so easy to do and so easy to kind of overlook. It's oftentimes our default to say, oh, that's nice. But if you're thinking that, just drop the line. It's going to be a way that people like, how could people not think nice things about you when you're sending them an email with nothing but congratulations? And again, it's authentic. It's not pandering. It's not an act. He thought nice thoughts about that person, so he sent him. Everyone wrote back. Everyone was so grateful. Next is what's in it for them. So as you're keeping in touch with people, offering resources. So your resources might be, oh, hey, I just saw this article, thought you might be interested in it. Or I just signed up for this HR meetup next Thursday. Will you be there? Would love to catch up. Those little easy things that if you're doing something and you think it would be of value to someone else, just doing that quick outreach. I have a good friend who works in recruiting at a big firm, and she loves to tell this story where she had an associate, an intern, that she offered a job to and he didn't accept the job. He emails her every 6 months with just an update of what's going on with him, what opportunities he's exploring, how school's going, what his plans are post-graduation. And she loves getting his emails. She liked him if she offered him the job. She loves getting his emails, but she's also keenly aware that at one point he's going to say, okay, I want a job now. I didn't take that job before, but I think that this might be the right moment. And she's going to be really keen to entertain that idea because he's kept in touch in a way that was really, really easy for her and kept him top of mind without being burdensome. Then finally, in relationship maintenance, I want you to think about making time post-search. So once you've landed that job, as soon as you've landed that job within the next month, I want you reaching out to everyone that helped you along the way and making sure that they know where you are now, how excited you are to be there, and that you appreciate everything that they did along the way. And then making sure that you're still doing those check-ins. So, maybe a quarterly, maybe 3 times a year, and it might be coffee, it might be an email, depending on your relationship, but making sure that you are not only using your network when it's beneficial to you, because it is relationship maintenance. And people will notice if you're the person that only reaches out when there's an ask. So the regular check-ins and the circling back or sending an email that, just to make somebody smile, really, really goes a long way in making sure that you're staying top of mind and people are thinking about you as opportunities arise. Okay, so I'm going to let Romy go ahead and keep you up to date on getting connected. And while I do that, I'm going to send you the, oh no, Romy took care of the key step in job search. Thank you so much. Awesome.
Alyson, thank you. That was so helpful. And I think everyone's takeaway here is clearly go look at your network and find the hidden gems and reach beyond, but treat the relationships very carefully. We do have one question. Oh, asked and answered. No. Okay. Well, first thing, want to make sure everybody saw the chat. If you click to open the chat, you should be able to see everything Alyson was referring to. Somebody asked, once you thank the party, how often do you reach out to them to discuss your progress? So how often is it appropriate to update?
Gotcha. I mean, I would say if someone has made an introduction, immediately reach out and say, thank you for the introduction. I will talk with that person. And then after you've met with that person, it's always great to circle back and say, thanks again for the introduction. I met with this person. It was really valuable to spend time with them. I'll continue to keep you up to date with my search or however you decide to close it. So you don't need to continue to harp on that introduction. But the person who made the introduction, that's a person that's established themselves as someone who is willing to help you. So
yeah, and you may want to get back to everybody when you land a job, right? And just say, hey, thanks for your help along the way. Here's where I ended up.
100%. Yes, that's an absolute. If there's one rule, I think that's a huge one because I introduce people all the time, and I take informational interviews all the time, and I make introductions and people rarely circle back. So those people that do, I think such nice thoughts about them. Like I have this one person who I met in a live workshop, but similar to this. He connected me on LinkedIn. He just sends me regular notes of like, Alyson, I really appreciated that article you shared, or I'm looks like I'm up for a promotion. I'm really excited. This information you shared was really helpful, or whatever it is. And like I'm thinking of him, Scott. I know his name. We've never, spent a bunch of time together, but he's been good enough to keep me up to date. And that's really, really valuable.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I'm afraid we are running low on time, but I want to thank you all for your participation. Alyson, can people reach out to you? How can someone get in touch with you if they want more information?
Absolutely. So I will pop my website, AlysonGarrido.com. into the chat. So my website has heaps and heaps of articles that I link to a lot of Fairygodboss articles and a lot of articles in different publications. I'm not sure if we'll be able to put this webinar up, but if we can, we'll certainly put that up.
We record it, so we can share a link to it. We can put it on YouTube.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, so you'll have this there. We'll make sure that there's lots more resources where this information I shared today comes from. If for any reason you think that it would be helpful for us to work together one-on-one, you'll also see on my website I have a link to schedule a career kickstart session. So that's just a time to get to know each other, see if we are the right fit, and if we are, we can design a package to suit your needs. But either way, you'll find heaps and heaps of resources on my website and on Fairygodboss too.
Yes. And this is where I ask you to please follow Fairygodboss on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. Please share us, share our website, sign up for our newsletter, tell your friends. Our mission is to improve the workplace for women. And the more women that know about us and the more women that use us, the more that we succeed in that mission. So appreciate your joining us this evening, this morning, whatever it is. And we look forward to connecting with you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.